Today I present to you the evil overlords of the land and who's been screwing with my DNA. So, I'm a curious guy. I want to know how stuff works. And consequently, this has led me down a few rabbit holes. Long story short, it's the Khazarian Mafia and aliens modified our DNA. I know that's a hell of a statement from a nobody with zero credentials, but hear me out. Let's talk about it. So let's start with the DNA. DNA is deoxyribonucleic acid, to be precise. And on March 31st, 2022, the first truly complete gapless human DNA sequence was announced by the T2T consortium. So what does that mean? Well, that means now we can see every little itty bitty piece on our DNA, and what we have seen was obvious signs of genetic manipulation. Have a look at this.
Psychologically, we have been preyed upon by this group. How do you do that genetically? Well, Cliff High has an idea. Next slide. It was a simple fix. They burned out the second chromosome and fused the junction where it used to be with the non-activating codon. Thus, the order of processing of the gene sequence was changed, with third chromosome becoming number 2. The totality of chromosomes was reduced from 24 to 23. Look up here in the top right. Human chromosome 2 was formed by the head-to-head fusion of 2 ancestral chromosomes that remain separated in other primates, meaning it's not natural. This was done, and it's not going to happen again because it was done in the lab. What this is basically saying in science and biology is, look here. There's been a fusion that has happened in our chromosomes. If we look at the next slide, at the end of your chromosomes are telomeres, okay? And these are like a sealing edge for the tube that holds your DNA. Inside that chromosome is your DNA, the map that is you, that map that creates you. And so at the end of the tube are caps, so that the DNA strands that are inside the tube don't fray, come out, and spill out and are destroyed, okay? And so are metabolized. And so what you see here genetically is you see two heads that have been fused together. Look here on the left, human chromosome number 2. What do you see? You see two telomere heads that have been fused together. Folks, that's laboratory work. That's not natural work happening in nature. That's laboratory manipulation, genetic manipulation of our chromosome. That's what's happening there. You have something that has come in, my argument is that it's a species, has come in who are genetic geniuses, and they have bonded these two telomeres. And what this shows you is, first of all, this wouldn't have happened. This doesn't happen in evolution. Okay, so that brings a huge question into the evolutionary theory. And then this, if you were a god creating a human being or a being, you would never leave this kind of signature in your work.
So, it really looks like there was a version of us which preceded this current model. And it was a bloody ripper. You get to live to 1,000 years old, you get ripped muscles, mental telepathy, and this old meatbag I'm walking around in, it's been detuned to shorten its lifespan. I've got reduced processing power, I've got zero telepathic abilities, and we were dumbed down and herded into paddocks because we are the product and we have value. We are valuable for lots of different reasons, and I'll tell you more about that in some other episodes. But for now, leading on from that, the next logical question is, who did this to us? Well, to start with, there was the original creator of us all. We are clones of some description, and this is described by Genesis 1:27, and it says, "So God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God he created them. Male and female he created them." It's clear as mud, but we've got to start somewhere. And then a parasite arrived and crudely modified our DNA. They manipulated us at a genetic level which shortened our lifespans and lowered our brain capacity. And they physiologically devalued us as individuals and constricted our minds. They are known as the Elohim, and they are a demonoid species from another dimension who defiled nature God by manipulating our DNA. This helped to enslave us by compromising our practical awareness of our mind, while also keeping our God awareness and our spiritual sense intact. Now that was done on purpose, right? That's the valuable part of us. Well, to them anyway. So if our DNA was left intact, the coding within our DNA, it would be able to develop a larger sense of reality than the material landscape we currently exist in. Basically what that means is we would have the ability to access the non-material world in some capacity, such as like the ability to communicate telepathically. And this has been demonstrated recently that this ability lies dormant in us. There's a Netflix series which presents autistic children who demonstrate and can recreate that they can communicate telepathically. Now that blows my mind, and it's amazing. Like, imagine having that ability, but you'd want to be able to turn it off because some of my thoughts I do not want to share with the outside world. And as far as lifespan goes, I'm 57 and I finally almost got my shit together. I'm definitely wiser than I was 30 years ago, but I've still got a long way to go. And how much wisdom can you acquire in, say, 80 or 90 years in comparison to 1,000 years? Imagine what you could do, what you could contribute, what you could achieve, what you could create. It would be wonderful. So even though we were dumbed down biologically by design, we remain spiritually sensitive for them. And that's the part of us that makes us so valuable. They prey upon us to access the love and compassion energy that they are lacking in. So, and here on Earth, there exist intermediaries amongst us who facilitate this transaction through blood sacrifices, satanic rituals, and selling of souls for material gain on Earth, as evidenced by the Epstein files. These people are traitors to the human race. They eat, torture, sacrifice, and enslave thousands, if not millions of people per year. This shit is real, and it's been going on for thousands of years. Have a look at this clip.
We are getting to the origins of why things are the way that they are, which lead to how and who made things the way that they are, you see? Is this the great secret that cannot be divulged to anyone for fear society would collapse? Is this the answer to why our planet has been turned into a human farm? Are the Elohim demons the parasitic species that has held human development in check for over 10,000 years? To wit, is the Khazarian Mafia the intermediating society used by the leader of the Elohim, Lucifer, to con and steer the world into eternal self-enslavement? It's beginning to look like that's the case. From what I have researched through the testimonies of satanic ritual abuse survivors, Jay Parker, Kathy O'Brien, banker Ronald Bernard, former satanic and Catholic priests Mark Passio and John Spong, autodidact Jordan Maxwell, survivors of intense CP, Kurth Barker and the Hampstead children, women who were child breeders for sacrifice, Teresa from the 60 Minutes interview, I can show you if you want, I have discovered the following. I've discovered these things from studying the testimonies and hearing the testimonies of these people. The Amalekite, Khazarian, Luciferian, Masonic groups have anthropomorphized the Elohim into Lucifer, whom they worship as God. In exchange for raping and murdering children during ritual sacrifices, devotees to evil are given wealth, power, long life, prestige, and public notoriety. We've been marginalized with abuse bonds, pacified with false religions, coerced with harmful medicine, mugged with pernicious usury, and distracted with red herrings. The science, medical, judicial, political, religious, sport, and financial worlds are all direct and unmistakable testimonies to what Khazarians call Babylonian money magic. It dates back to Babylon, Amalek, and the bloodlines of Esau and the Canaanites. And here we're going to begin to get into the bloodlines directly. So looking real quickly at, again, the image from Dylan Monroe, look at the very top here, cult of Baal. What is the entire world set upon? Baal worship and human sacrifice. And from these two energies, Baal worship and human sacrifice, we get the Canaanites, the Pharaohs, the kings of Babylon. That's the beginning. Okay, and so we're going to go back to that origin here in a minute. But the entire world, what needs to be understood here, in my opinion and the opinion of all these people that I've mentioned before in this other slide here, these are the groups that rule the world, and they come out of these human sacrificing, Baal worshipping groups, which are direct descendants of the Nephilim, the Watchers, the fallen angels, the group that genetically modified us. Through blood communion with Lucifer, hell-bent societies learned and honed mind-destroying techniques to disempower humanity. History, science, medicine, religion, and therefore the human race were twisted to the will and destiny of Lucifer and his devotees. And then I take a quote here from The Hidden History of the Incredibly Evil Khazarian Mafia, the essay I'm going to read at the end. The Khazarian Mafia used their vast fortune to enter into a new system of banking based on secret Babylonian black magic, money magic, that they claim to have learned from the evil spirits of Baal in return for their many child sacrifices to him. So how was the world taken over? These groups formed a relationship, cultivated, fostered a relationship with evil, with pure evil. And that evil taught them, this is how you manipulate humankind. This is how you manipulate the money systems. This is how you manipulate religious systems. This is how you manipulate medical systems. You take these societies that rule humanity, put them in authority, and then whatever those authorities say is what all of society follows. So if those authorities are corrupted, which they are, then all of society becomes corrupted, because the only medicine, history, science, religion that all of society knows is the ones that have been given to them, handed down to them by the leadership. And look at history. Look at history. Look at what's in the center of this artwork. The Vatican. The Vatican. Rome never fell. See there on the left? It never fell. It combined with Judea to form the Roman Catholic Church. This is a power institution. And then out of that became the rulers of the world. Look, the Khazars, the Khazarian Mafia, the Knights Templar. These are the rulers of the world. The Masons, the Jesuits. Then Switzerland in 1291, that marks the beginning of the financial takeover of the world. Black nobility. The nobility that you don't know and that you've never heard about. That's when they took over the world, right here, 1291. This is self-organizing. What you see is evil self-organizing. The earth, nature, is a self-organizing institution, so to speak. So whatever energy is put into power, that energy will self-organize, because nature doesn't have an opinion. It just simply foments what is being instigated, what is being encouraged, and it will simply follow that pattern, because everything is frequency. And so these groups have simply developed a current, a pattern that all of the world has followed. And so all of the world is blinded by this pattern, is blinded by this resonant frequency, this evil that they have instigated. The intermediaries, Cain, Ham, Esau, the Amalekites, the Canaanites, the Babylonian kings, Byzantine rulers, Roman emperors, the Phoenicians, the Khazars, the Pope, the Black Pope, the Illuminati, black nobility, and the Order of the Black Snake. These are the people and societies who have held a continuing relationship with true evil since the Younger Dryas. If you don't know what the Younger Dryas is, I'm going to tell you here in a minute. But this slide is pointing back to this group. Here, look. See these groups above? You see, and this hidden nobility is what has been steering us. Those are the groups that I just listed them right there. And they have been the intermediaries for the world as we know it today. And this all began at the Younger Dryas. What is the Younger Dryas? The Younger Dryas was a massive cataclysm. The Younger Dryas cataclysm was a 3-mile wide white-hot meteor that struck the 7-mile thick Greenland ice sheet 13,000 years ago. It blew out a 19-mile wide crater that launched building-sized ice blocks into 8-minute flight trajectories. A 1,000-foot ripple wall of meltwater, ice chunks, trees, and rubble crushed and covered all of North America and Europe with 300 to 600 feet of Earth. In my opinion, this was an attack. Here's the debris field. Here's the coverage field. Here's the crater on the left, you can see. And basically what you see in that field, the Younger Dryas debris field, this shows all of the world that was affected, that was covered over in massive amounts of earth, and then also flooded because we had so much meltwater that formed from the cataclysm. It actually changed the atmosphere of the earth. The earth's atmosphere changed. If we look at this map here, what we see is the Earth as it is now, so meters below sea level. So water level is normal in this photo. This is from the NASA website. And then what we see is when the before the flood came, before the Younger Dryas, the Earth probably looked a lot more like this. Now look, the brown part is land, and you can see how the landmass right up there in Alaska and Siberia, look how it's connected. You see how look at England. The UK is basically no longer an island. You see this changed everything. And then everything you see in the west there, look at the debris field. Everything in the west and all of North America, Mexico, all the way to South America was covered up in earth. You've seen pictures of a buried planet that most likely was from that time, from the Younger Dryas, because it buried the earth in so much land. It buried all the land in so much mass. And then the flooding, the earth was flooded. And so you had a change, a complete transformation that happened at the Younger Dryas. And what this did, if we look at the timeline here that I've made, what the Younger Dryas did is it mixed up all the history so that it became very difficult to know what happened before the flood, because the flood, the Younger Dryas cataclysm, wiped out all that history and quote unquote muddied it up, because it covered the earth with hundreds of feet of mud. And this mud flood, we know for a fact, happened around 11,800 or so BC, right around there. It happened. We know it happened. And we know that it covered up human habitats and fortresses and so forth because they're buried and we're uncovering them. You can see, I mean, the pyramids at Giza are not the only pyramids on the planet. There are pyramids everywhere on this planet. They are all over the place. And what this is pointing towards is a great cataclysm that stopped a development that was happening with humanity on this planet. You see that it was infiltrated. A terrible event happened, wiped out that culture, and then we were genetically manipulated.
So what do you reckon? There's enough evidence in there to warrant further investigation, I reckon. And what I've shown you, it's just a sprinkle of how much is out there. So you want to learn more? Go to Chuck Swindoll Jr.'s channel, tell him I sent you. He has all the details, he has the evidence, and he provides an in-depth analysis, so you can use this information to have an informed opinion. The link is in the description. Now, before I go, I'd like to say something else. To anyone who may be feeling overwhelmed by all this, is just take your time, because to accept the reality of this situation is very confronting, and I personally had a tough time with it at a certain point. But you'll get past that, you know. Take it all in, learn everything you need to know to no longer be afraid. Because knowledge is power, and now that I know these things, I'm no longer afraid. I know what we're dealing with, and I know how to defeat it. And it's not about left or right, white or black, or even religion against religion. It's good versus evil, and it's time to pick a side. No one is coming to save you. First, you must save yourself. And bad things happen when good people do nothing. So please join me, and let's defeat the evil that exists and contaminates our world. Thank you so much for listening. I love you all, and peace.